Okay, well, welcome to this webinar. This is week 2 of Bridging the Dementia Divide. We're going to be talking to you for the next sort of 30 minutes from the University of Derby here in the UK. We'll start with some introductions then, if that's okay. I'm joined with Yasu.
Yes. My name is Yasu Kotera. I'm academic lead in counselling at the University of Derby Online Learning.
And Ian.
Hello, I'm Ian Welsh, and I'm an associate academic for the University of Derby, and I'm assisting David on this MOOC.
And some of you will know me. My name's David. I'm the academic lead for nursing and healthcare. Yasu is our special guest today, and we're going to be talking to Yasu a bit later on. But this is the first time you've probably met Ian, and Ian is supporting and working with me throughout the rest of the MOOC. So you'll be seeing a lot more of Ian throughout the next few weeks. So this week then we've been looking at communication and compassion, and we know that they're really important topics, and hopefully that's kind of come through with the week's content. We heard from Alison Kilduff, who's a senior lecturer at the University of Derby in mental health, and also a mental health nurse as well, on what compassion is, and we saw a couple of videos with her as well. We also heard about Professor Paul Gilbert, who is a professor here and has also worked for the Derby hospitals and NHS trusts in the area as well. And he's worked on compassion-focused therapy and lots of other things, which we're going to speak to Yasu about a little bit later on in this half hour. But he kind of defined the elements of compassion as being respect, kindness, understanding, empathy, and sympathy. And one of the activities this week was to look at what does compassion mean to you. So I just thought to sort of kick off this session that I would try and pull out some of the really key points from that, which and some of your answers, which were absolutely fantastic. And I think the important thing to say is that not one of the attributes was selected any more than the others. They were all sort of quite equally selected, which is really good. So somebody said that, and I'll read this out to you. Compassion means to me is allowing someone time to express their emotions and showing them empathy whilst being warm and kind to the person. And I think that one really resonated with me. I don't know about you guys, but it was about warmth and kindness, which are really important components of compassion. The next person said, I'm a Buddhist and I follow the Dalai Lama's statement that compassion is an openness to the suffering of others with a commitment to relieve it. And actually, this person's touched upon suffering, which is often what we see as healthcare professionals, and the whole concept of suffering is quite a complex one. And seeking to relieve that. But also they've touched on the aspect of religion and faith, which is often important in compassion and can support compassion as well. Another person said a willingness to understand and direct one's own behaviour towards the best outcome for the other, to feel and to care but without patronising or with aim to support another without reward. And I chose this one because so many people are compassionate to others or go and help others, help relieve suffering for free. And things like organisations like the Alzheimer's Society, for instance, support befrienders networks who people go out and spend time with people living with dementia, and they do it completely off their own back for free. And it's a really important role, and actually one that's often undersold and we're certainly not aware of it in the media, for example. And then one just last comment, which I thought that I'd like to share with you, was that to me compassion means connection, hearing beyond the words, hearing body language, hearing the heart, hearing the life lived, hearing the future dreams, reaching out and sharing a hand, a smile, words of encouragement, an ear to hear a say, it's nice to hear the words well done, validating another person's love language and letting love live. And whoever that person is, it was one of the most poetic responses that I saw on the board, and that really to me summed up what compassion is, letting love live. I thought that was fantastic. So thanks very much for your contributions to that activity. It's something that we've really got all out of reading, so thank you. We've also discussed communication this week, and we heard from David Foreman, who is a senior lecturer on the pre-registration programs here at the University of Derby in nursing. And we talked about the solar principles as well, and about how we can sort of actively engage in communication. And hopefully you'll be able to use those tools in your daily life to be able to engage and communicate with others in a better way. So that's my kind of summing up of what's happened this week. I'm going to hand over to Ian, who's going to talk about some of his reflections of the week and the things that he's seen.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. Yeah, I've been following the discussion board quite closely, and it's really nice to see so many people contributing to that, and we really do appreciate you sharing your ideas and your thoughts, so keep it coming. That's really good. One of the things that I picked up in the discussion forum was a number of you have said that compassion shouldn't need to be taught. Now, that's quite a contentious statement. We would hope that people in the caring industry would naturally have compassion, but maybe sometimes that compassion fails. I'd like to perhaps take that point up in a little while. But in response to that, Gail Mackey said that it's not that compassion needs to be taught, but how to express it in a controlled and professional manner. And I think that's a very, very salient point. Thanks for that, Gail. And Lauren Hodgetts said an increased understanding of the condition aids compassion. And I think that is also a very important point. If you can have some insight into what's going on in the mind of the person with dementia, and if you can understand, as this course is trying to teach, if you can understand what is actually happening to the brain, then perhaps it aids our ability to feel compassion towards the affected person. So I would take from that compassion-related teaching is necessary. Whether or not you're teaching compassion, to be honest, I don't think that we do teach compassion as such. I have been a lecturer and a program leader in a pre-registration nursing program, and we've never actually had a module on compassion, but we have had modules on communication and helping students to understand people with disabilities, people in distress for whatever reason. And that brings me on to the paper which you were asked to read by Alice Cole King and Paul Gilbert. And they actually make the point quite early on in their paper that a recent Care Quality Commission report said that in some hospitals, care and compassion problems, some problems still remain. So, yeah, we would hope that everybody working in hospitals and in any care setting would be compassionate. But as the Care Quality Commission had pointed out, there are still problems. So we need to figure out why those problems exist. But their paper looks at the science of compassion and how compassion can be taught, or at least how individuals can be taught to be more compassionate, could we say. They point out that compassion is commonly misunderstood as being only about traits such as warmth, kindness, and gentleness. And compassion is not synonymous with pity. So those qualities are necessary. They are very necessary for anybody who's caring with a person with dementia. But in order to develop our skills of communication, now to enhance our own compassion, the authors have suggested that the core attributes can be developed, they can be further developed, and they go on to describe a model where taking the attributes which we hope are the core attributes of sensitivity and caring and being non-judgmental and being empathetic, each of those things can be further developed by paying attention to our own feelings, our own attitudes, our own behaviours towards people, and our own reasonings and how we think, how we imagine that other person might feel. So there's a whole area where we can actually develop our own understandings and enhance our own compassion. And there is one other aspect I'd like to bear in mind in relation to compassion, and that is about leadership. I'll tell you a story which I heard actually only this week. A friend of mine went to visit her mother-in-law who has Alzheimer's disease. Mother-in-law was in a care home, and within the room that she was sharing with, this is a day room, where she was sitting with a number of other residents, there was no communication going on. Each person was in their own world, and there was a healthcare assistant sitting, arms folded, and apparently doing nothing, and certainly not engaging with the residents, not doing anything. She appeared, the scenario I've described appears, she would appear like a warder, just taking, just observing and taking care of people, involving with them. Now, I ask the question, why is that allowed? Where's the leadership here? Does the manager of the care home know that this is happening? Does the manager of the care home actually observe these quiet periods? And I believe that there's a culture of compassion, and there may be a culture of non-compassion. And I firmly believe that there's a lot to say about leadership within the health service and within the caring community generally. And good practices or bad practices are condoned or encouraged or implicitly allowed. And I think it's the job of the people in charge, the job of managers at local level, to make sure that their standards are high and that the junior staff are taught the example of compassionate caring, which is not sitting by just watching people doing nothing. So those are just my thoughts arising from this week's discussions and this week's readings, and a chance conversation I've had with a friend. So I hope you've got something from those thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. Really great to share those. And I think just to reflect on that, I did my nurse training, and I don't remember ever being explicitly taught compassion. I remember having sessions on communication quite a lot, and the very sort of the technique aspects of having a conversation with somebody, and a bit that we've talked about this week about the soul, but never actually being explicitly taught compassion. And I guess that it's an argument which will continue: is do we try and recruit people to nursing who are already compassionate, or do we try and take the key aspects that we've kind of seen, that Paul Gilbert and Yasu King, and try and develop those or educate people? And I think we've sort of only started the debate and the discussion here, and I think it'll continue. Absolutely,
and I think it's worth pointing out that Robert Francis in his report said that compassion should be one of the characteristics that we're looking for when we're recruiting students.
Yeah, and of course that was one of the 6 C's which we saw at the start of this week. Yeah. I think it's also important to say, you said about the leadership aspect, and Robert Francis again, he identified that in the mid-staff's inquiry that leadership was a real issue. Yeah. And related to the poor care that happened, and perhaps had the right leadership been in place, we might have been able to avoid that sort of situation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Ian, for your thoughts. Really great to hear those. So we've talked a little bit about compassion and communication from sort of a theoretical and a practical perspective, but we're joined by Yasu today, and Yasu has lots of skills. I think it's pretty fair to say Yasu is a master neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and also a trainer of master practitioners, but also knows quite a lot about mental health. And obviously that's because that's what his role is here.
True, yeah.
So I thought this would be a really good opportunity for you to meet Yasu, and for Yasu to share with us some of his thoughts about mental health and dementia, because we know that there is a high correlation, and Yasu's going to tell us about that. But so I've got a few questions for Yasu, if that's all right with you, Yasu. And I guess the first one is, why do we need to talk about mental health in relation to dementia?
Okay, yeah, very good question. It's because there's, as David said, there's a strong correlation between mental health problems and also physical health problems. For example, 30% of the adults who have physical problems also have mental disorders. And it's kind of, you can understand this through the stories that Ian gave us earlier, kind of thing. There's correlation. When you are suffering from physical symptoms, you are also suffering from some kind of mental problems, and that creates negative cycle. So that's why seeing mental health is very important. And now government creates a document called "There's no health without mental health." And in fact, in the origin of the word health in English is wholeness, whole. And also in Chinese or Japanese, the word of health means sound body and calm mind. So probably people in ancient time know it's very important to see mind and body to create complete health. And when it comes to dementia, half of dementia patients have depression. So on top of CFT, compassion focused therapy, I'm going to talk a little bit about CBT as well, because CBT is most effective for depression. And one of the programs I'm leading is CBT programs. So.
Yeah. Okay, do you want? I mean, you've kind of mentioned CBT. Do you want to expand on that? And what CBT is and how people with dementia could use CBT to perhaps work on things like depression?
Yeah, thank you. Very nice question. CBT stands for chocolate, biscuit, and tart. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. And then today, many of you haven't learned any mental health or psychology, so I'm going to use a simple language to explain those things. Cognition, simply said, it's language, it's thoughts, what you have in your head. And behavior. So this therapy looks at how your thoughts affect your behaviors. For example, two of them are really good nurse. So when you are working in the hospital, probably the thoughts you have in your head, somewhere in your brain, is that I'm a good nurse, so I can help people better. So that creates better behavior to support patients. On the other hand, if you imagine believing that I'm not really a good nurse, probably your performance will become less. Like that, cognitive behavioral therapy looks at relation of your thoughts, and usually thoughts and emotions, then how that affects your behavior. So that's pretty much CBT. Yeah.
So just to bring, to bring it back to the week's theme then, which is compassion. You mentioned a bit about compassion-focused therapy, and we've been reading about that with Paul Gilbert, who is a professor here, and he's worked quite a lot on compassion-focused therapy. Do you want to tell us a bit about what CFT is?
Yes. Compassion-focused therapy is originally coming from CBT. Paul Gilbert was working on shame and self-criticism, then approached CBT, then came to this CFT. And CFT is a CBT plus evolutionary psychology, social psychology, developmental psychology, and Buddhism philosophy and neuroscience. That kind of combined good stuff therapy. That's CFT. And then it's, for example, like today's this week's unit, you see a situation where they use compassion to understand the situation of patient. I think that's really a key in CFT, compassion focused therapy, just having the mind of understanding what's going on behind that person. On the other hand, for example, traditional therapy can analyze or direct approach, but compassion focused therapy try to understand. I've read compassion focused therapy books, and it's very salient to me that there's often the framework of, oh, that is understandable that you feel this way kind of approach. So it's really, compassionate, kind of try to understand the situation or suffering of others.
Okay. I mean, I've actually seen compassion-focused therapy be used and been very, very effective. And the only thing, obviously we have the audience is a mixture of practitioner and also lay people really who are just interested in more about dementia. And so I think CBT and compassion-focused therapy are often quite sort of practitioner. You have to be a skilled practitioner that's been through courses and learned how to do things. And actually, it would be really great if you could tell us about mindfulness. But within the context of, I recently read about somebody in Birmingham here in the UK who is using mindfulness in acute wards. And with patients who may have dementia, may not have dementia, who are acutely unwell and using mindfulness as a way to relax and to aid relaxation and promote recovery. So, and I guess, what about some tips people could do at home even,
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are many things that, because I like to think about the ways that people can apply or use in daily life. For example, when it comes to CBT, what you can use in daily life is, for example, a thought record, meaning that you write about your thoughts and the feelings of the day. When I see a depressed client, I ask them to review their feelings, probably lunchtime and dinner time, and what they're thinking in their head, probably 8 to 9 o'clock, 9 to 10 o'clock, what they're thinking. And then review later on, then you can see a pattern of your thoughts, a pattern of how you feel depressed, for example. Or CBT has also practical tools like, for example, ABC model, activating event, beliefs, and consequences. For example, you feel depressed over not remembering your birthday. In this case, activating event is not remembering your birthday, and consequence is depressed. The beliefs probably could be, oh, I forgot this again, I'm useless, or those kind of beliefs. Once you can identify those beliefs or thoughts, you can approach, you can dispute how unhelpful they are or how ridiculous they are. It's too much of overgeneralization to label you just by one incident, right? And when it comes to mindfulness, for example, what you can do is that this is what I learned through Gestalt therapy training. It's called awareness continuum. Mindfulness or Gestalt, similar thing is that focus on here and now, because our worry or anxiety often coming from past or future. You worry about something might happen in the future, or you are angry about what happened before. So by focusing on here and now, you can release those mental distress. And how the how awareness continuum or this mindfulness practice goes is that just simply be aware of what's now. Yeah, what are there now? For example, now I can see camera, now I can see screen, or I can hear my voice, or you can notice your breathing. This awareness to what's now really helps you, for example, to behave kind of irrational thoughts or emotions. So that's, I think, another thing that you can practice in your life. Yeah.
I guess the message of this is that if you do know somebody who has dementia and perhaps has depression that is coexistent, that there are therapies available that people can access. And also often we know that people who have later stages of dementia often can only concentrate on the here and now, and they may be dislocated in time or memories, and so perhaps something like mindfulness might help somebody to concentrate on the here and now and relocate themselves and increase their self-awareness. Do you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, so how would these exercises help the carer?
Good
For
point.
example,
Yes.
the person whose father and mother is suffering from dementia, it's not just that person that's suffering, it's the son, the daughter.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yes, often they feel, for example, grief or guilt or depression or anger. Yeah, they can themselves use the CBT or mindful training to be aware of their thoughts and emotions. Yeah, and then another thing that you brought up is that like my grandmother has severe Alzheimer as well. And what was effective for her is music therapy. Yeah, I let her listen to music. Usually that she learned when she was little. So like music from World War II or something like that. And then she started to sing, and then that's I think I can see her most brightened up when she sings those songs. Yeah.
So I can see then that would be very helpful to somebody who likes music. But what about somebody for whom music wasn't a main thing? Is there a way of bringing in other interests?
Yeah, well, we talked last week actually about dementia villages and complexes where people can live that were formerly care homes that are now sort of much more than that. And they have themed rooms, themed activities, all sorts of different things that people can engage with. And actually doing that has been shown to really benefit and locate people. So
Right.
yeah.
And when it comes to this memory agitation, usually kinestic-oriented stimulus works better. So music are not really kinestic, but for example, smell. Yeah, smell brings back to the memories. For example,
very, very potent.
Yeah. I think now, I know a researcher in California. They are working on the healing with smell. So, very good point. That's something now to be explored.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Yessir, for contributing, and really great to hear Yasu's thoughts on CBT, I think, and compassion focused therapy and mindfulness as well. And I think it's been really great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we've got 5 minutes left now. We'll just sum up really. We've discussed a bit about. We've identified some of the details from the activities. We've covered what compassion is again. We've heard from Ian about some of his reflections from the week, which have been really great. And we've talked a bit about CBT, compassion, focused therapy, and mindfulness with Yasu. So next week, we're going to be discussing independence, control, and quality of life. And this unit is really, it covers a lot of things, but we will discuss the ethics and law associated with autonomy and control, and we'll actually ask, what does it mean to be independent? Often people with later stages of dementia can lose the ability to consent to things and to make informed decisions about things, and so we'll discuss what it means to make an informed decision this week as well. And a lot of what we'll talk about is UK law, but also European law, Human Rights Act, things like that. So still internationally relevant, and the ethics certainly are. We'll hear what the aspects of that are. So we look forward to seeing you in there next week as well. We'll also be having another webinar next week at the same time, same place. Just a few final things to say. If you haven't had your badge yet for this week, you need to do to read all the unit pages, complete the activity using the Google form that we heard about the compassion. We need to participate in the role of education in promoting compassion discussion, which is what Ian touched on as well, and also just complete the reflection, which is at the end. Just a couple of lines of what you've learned this week is enough, really. And that'll get you the badge for this week. We are aware that some people are having some issues with getting badges, and that's to do with the Safari browser rather than anything technical. So if you are able to do so, please try and change to a browser like Chrome, which we know that the badges definitely work in, because we're aware of some issues with Safari. We're also aware of, unfortunately, an issue with certificates being issued. And this is a Canvas issue. It's being worked on over the weekend, and so it should be resolved by Monday. So we're incredibly sorry about those problems that some of you have been having. But thanks for letting us know and keeping in touch with what's going on. The final thing I have to say is do engage with us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, Yessir's on Twitter, Ian's on Twitter. We have a hashtag which is Dementia MOOC. So if you want to let us know your thoughts, we can continue the conversation there as well as in Canvas. It would be really great to hear what you guys are thinking. We've also been putting the occasional tweet out about other things which are related to the course. So if you follow the hashtag, you'll be able to find out that information as well. So that's kind of the end of this week's webinar. Just want to say thank you very much for attending, and I'm sure these guys are thankful too. And whether you're watching the live webinar or the recording, it's been really great to have you here. And we look forward to speaking to you the next week. So it's a bye from me.
And me.
Me too.
And you. We'll see you later.
Cheers.